Tell you what, it's a great panel tonight. They sound like a very expensive firm of solicitors. Blackmore, Broadhead and Bunn. Mel Blackmore is from Hitchin. She runs Blackmore's an ISO management systems consultancy. Welcome back.
Hello.
Last time she came in, I think you broke your iPad. Careful. It's a very expensive bit of kit. Mark Broadhead is the manager of the very busy Mall shopping centre in Luton. Evening, Mark.
Good evening, Roberto.
What time's it shut tonight?
At 6, so we just closed.
Good day?
I believe so. I've been tied up in a few meetings, so I've not seen that much retail business.
And Richard Bunn is from the White Hot Group. They source, lease and sell commercial vehicles. They'll even pimp your vehicle if you want to.
We will. Evening, Roberto.
What's the last deal you've done?
We did one. Yes, we're getting one. We've got one delivered tomorrow. A big Ford Ranger to somebody who's got a horse box. So it's not just to tradespeople. Anybody who wants a commercial vehicle.
Is it pimped up?
It comes pimped anyway from Ford. It's got everything on it.
We say
Very
pimped
nice.
up, a big white, big wheels.
A chrome bar over the top, huge wheels, 20-inch alloys. Very nice.
That is so me, really. Ostentatious.
Well, I'll talk to you afterwards if you like.
Yeah, right.
Special deal.
Yes. They're good. Mel Blackmore, Mark Broadhead and Richard Bunn. You want to join in, you can text me 81333. You're going to start that text 3CR.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Roberto Perrone.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
Welcome, panel. We were talking last night in the programme about our addiction to coffee, and funnily enough, last night on BBC Two, started a new series, first of all, Coffee Shop Hot Shots. It was looking at how these coffee brands have taken off, literally our addiction to these brands and coffee. We're paying a lot of money for a coffee, and how not even the recession has quenched our desire for coffee. Apparently, if you have a regular coffee, you could be spending up to £2,000 a year in these places. You just don't tot it up. It's the first in a 4-part series on these businesses. There are 16,500 coffee shops in the UK. I was going to ask you why we're addicted. Mark, how many coffee shops have you got in the Mall?
I think if you count up every retailer that could sell you a coffee, I think we're nigh on 28 to 30.
So you're not going to go lacking for a cup of coffee in the Mall?
Definitely not, no. I would, because I prefer tea.
They serve tea as well. But it is astonishing how we are addicted to these things.
Oh, yeah, and not only that, the price, as you said, how much you can spend a year. I mean, you can pick up a coffee for £1.50, you can spend £3 odd on it. And the choice is immense. The care that goes into creating that coffee and that vending for that one person is immense. You know, it's theatre.
And are people drawn to places like... I mean, the Mall is a huge shopping centre. Lots of people coming through there. Are people drawn by the coffee shops?
I would say so. I mean, I bumped into two guys today we do business with, which are printers, and they were down there just having a moose around and went to Costa and having a wander through with their 2 paper cups. So they'd just come down for a break and that was it, coffee and away.
Mel, in Hitchin, I mean, you either got hairdressers or coffee shops in Hitchin.
That's very true, yes. And the Starbucks is a little bit too close to my office for my liking. It's so addictive. I mean, I've got to say, Starbucks is my particular preference.
But this is the bit about the brands. We have a predilection for certain brands. I mean, people will either go to Costa or Starbucks or any other.
Yeah,
or
for
cafe.
me, it's not about the brand, it's the taste of the coffee, and it's just the way that... I mean,
Well, you think that. I think it's about the brand.
Actually, well, no, I have to disagree there, because I have my coffee in a certain way. This is very sad now. And I didn't even used to really drink coffee. I even liked coffee a couple of years ago. But because the coffee is made in such a way that I want to go back time and time again, and I think that's the secret to it. And the other day I was actually buying a coffee, and one of the girls that was serving me said, "That's amazing, you've ticked all the boxes." So you know how you have the boxes on the side and you can tick all the various... I don't know if you're looking a bit...
No, I don't. Do they still take your name in that?
They do, yes.
See, I never give them a real name. If I do, if I'm somewhere in London, for example, I have to go in one of those places, and they ask your name, I never give my real name. The problem is, of course, when it's time to give them the coffee, they're calling for Steve. I'm thinking, who's Steve? I think I've given them a fake name.
Yeah, but it's got even worse now, hasn't it? Because they have these loyalty cards. And so now I actually have with my business card, I will put credit on my Starbucks card, which can be quite dangerous.
Wow. Richard Bunn from the White Hot Group.
Yes.
Are you a coffee fanatic?
I have an obsession with coffee.
Yeah, I thought you might.
I mean, I have a strange predilection. I always drink coffee out of a cup and saucer. has to be white. So everyone in the office always raises their eyes whenever I have a coffee. So it has to be out of the right receptacle as well for me. But I think those.
I feel good. You just give them a brown paper cup in.
I know. Well, I've come down a bit. But no, they're actually venues, aren't they? I mean, I was talking to somebody today, arranging a meeting with them, and I said, I'll meet you in Cafe Nero. It's got Wi-Fi. It's actually a business venue, and yummy mummies are all in there having a coffee break. So it's a place to go to. That's the other reason for going in there.
But I mean, we've been talking about that in our big tour, Berkham's. Berkham's got all the high streets have the same coffee shops, the same chains, for example, and some independents. But it's amazing how people are drawn to these places. And of course, if you go regularly, you think I'm paying £2 for a coffee or you might have a cake. Or you don't realise, because accountants love doing this. They quickly tot it up over the course of the year. What are you spending? It's a lot of money.
Absolutely. But there is one thing I would say, that people do have a preference for coffee. It's not just the taste of the coffee. You're right, it's about the brand. Because in the Mall, we still don't attract customers because we haven't got a Starbucks. They are, when are you going to get Starbucks?
So people come to you and say,
when are you going to get Starbucks?
Are there certain stores that people come to say, we want, I mean, Primark is a big name.
Yes.
All different stores attract different type of customers.
We do it from time to time. We use social media to ask what are we missing. And it's always the premium brands. JLP is one, Zara is another. But more often than not, we've catered for that option somewhere along the line with another brand or a retail offer.
So if consumers said to you, we want to see Roberto's tattoo parlour in not that I haven't got one, but if they were in the Mall, if you're getting, would you then come to me, or would I have to come to you? Because if I come to you, people already asked me to come in there and do tattoos on them. You wouldn't want a tattoo from me, by the way. Shaky hand.
I think if you had a business and people were asking for it, we would have to look at it seriously. Maybe tattooing is not the kind of retail offer we want to attract, but if you've got something else that's
it's
a little
Luton,
bit more,
you realise.
Yeah, but there are places for everything. But this is the Mall. This
All right.
is a premium shopping centre in Luton.
They're a good panel. Mel Blackmore, Mark Broadhead and Richard Bunn. Panel, can the world of sport teach the world of business any new tricks? The former Man United manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, has taken a long-term teaching position at Harvard. The 72-year-old, who retired at the end of last season, will lecture as part of a programme called The Business of Entertainment, Media and Sports. He gave a lecture on his management style at the university in 2012, and so popular was it, they asked him to come back as a long-term lecturer at Harvard. Can the world of sport teach the world of business any new tricks, Mel?
I think potentially, yes. I mean, what we have to remember that this is a very successful manager. You can't fault that, regardless of what profession he's in. In terms of the success that he's had, the trophies that Manchester United have won, and the 13 league titles, I think, and
have won. They won't win again for a long time. Some might say.
Well, that's the point. Will he be at Harvard next year, or will he be back at Manchester United?
But I mean, he's got that track record, so I think others are interested to learn. So, what's the secret, and what type of management principles, methods.
Does it work both ways? Can the world of sport learn from business, and can business learn from the world of sport?
I think potentially, yes. I think you can in any industry, really. I mean, one of our clients is Wembley Stadium, and they're actually launching their own university. And so for the very first time, there are going to be courses for the management of football. And so this is a growing area, certainly.
Wow. Richard Bunn.
Well, to be honest, if you look at Clive Woodward with rugby, I mean, his book Winning, I think it was called, is always quoted by business gurus and motivational speakers as one of the leading ones to read if you want. Forget sport, just about managing people and inspiring people. So there's definitely a huge overlap between sport. And Alex Ferguson's a bit of a one-off, so he's obviously got huge management experience and success. There's got to be something there to glean for business, I would say.
Mark?
I would echo that. I mean, the thing is, he's very successful. Business and teamwork go hand in hand. A good manager should be a good leader, and if you can show those qualities to other people and skills to other people to become better informed leaders, then you're away. I think it works for him.
Very successful, Mr. Ferguson, of course. Sir Alex was very, very successful, of course. But sometimes his management style was a bit awkward. I mean, kicking a boot at someone's face, and the infamous hairdryer treatment. I mean, of course, you wouldn't do that. Would you do that in your office, Richard?
No.
Get a boot and throw it at your staff?
I might in the rugby changing room, but it doesn't mean that everything he did is correct, but there will be stuff in there. And like with all speakers or tutors, everything they say is not necessarily correct, but there should be enough there quality that they can come out of it. So I imagine he's got so much to offer, there will be some little gems in there that will work in business.
My panel tonight, Mel Blackmore, Mark Broadhead and Richard Bunn. Richard is from the White Hot Group. Mark Broadhead is the manager of the very busy Mel shopping centre in Luton, and Mel Blackmore is from Hitchin. Runs Blackmore's an ISO management systems consultancy. Mel, just remind us what that all means.
Well, businesses need policies and procedures and structure in order to be able to deliver high-quality products and services, and that's what we help them to do. So if you look at Wembley, for example, yes, they run an organisation in terms of sporting events, music concerts, that sort of thing, but ultimately they need quality processes in order to be able to deliver ticketing, run their retail shops, etc. But we also cover health and safety, so we help to carry out risk assessments and put in risk management plans, that sort of thing.
Well, a place like Wembley has to have those because it's vast.
Absolutely, it's absolutely critical, yeah. And also, in that case, for example, we're also helping them to implement a sustainable event management ISO standard that was launched at the Olympics.
Wow. You want to text us? You can text 81333. Just need to start your text 3CR. I'll be asking the panel very shortly if they've ever met a nice estate agent. A new series starts on BBC Two tonight. I know they're all tutting. I have to think about this. Have you ever come across a nice estate agent?
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Still a bit of a struggle on the clockwise M25, queuing from Potters Bar at junction 24 along to Waltham Abbey at 26, not helped by an earlier accident in the queues there. Heading on to the northbound M11, quite a solid queue there from the M25 up towards Harlow at junction 7. Very slow as well on the exit slip there at Harlow junction 7 as well. Anti-clockwise on the M25, not too bad now, just a little bit slow from Maple Cross around junction 17 down towards the M4 at junction 15. A1M looking fine. Around Sandy though, still slow on the A1 heading up towards the Black Cat roundabout. In Sandy, St Neots Road is still closed after an accident near to Engain Avenue, and the A1 still slow as well around the Sandy roundabout. That's just come in, looking very slow around Bedford Road. That could be because of the closure of St Neots Road. Heading out to Old Stratford tonight, the A5 remains closed both ways. Two cars had a collision there earlier, so the A5 closed between the A422 Toaster Road at Old Stratford and the High Street at Pottersbury. Adam Moore, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks, Adam.
The next travel bulletin is in 15 minutes.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
When you need local news.
The headlines: 2 jailed for the killing of a teenager in Luton.
When you need local travel.
Queuing northbound from Welling around junction 5 up towards Nebworth.
When you need local weather.
We've got plenty more showers this afternoon, becoming more widespread and quite heavy at times.
BBC Three Counties Radio is here with local, up-to-date news and travel bulletins throughout the day. You'll always be up to date. BBC Three Counties Radio.
The Business and Finance Hour with Roberto Perrone.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So we have Mel Blackmore, Richard Bunn and Mark Broadhead with us in the studio tonight. A panel, can legislators instruct supermarkets to end their consumer deals? We heard over the last couple of days how supermarkets have been urged to end their buy one, get one free, their so-called bog-off deals, to cut out the so-called morally repugnant amount of food being thrown away by shoppers. This was a report by the House of Lords European Union Committee. It suggests that 15 million tonnes of food is wasted in the UK each year, and retailers are also told to behave more responsibly with farmers and avoid cancelling orders at the last minute. Which, you understand why they're saying it, but can the House of Lords, politicians, can anyone really tell supermarkets how they should run their business, Mark Broadhead?
No. It's as simple as that. I mean, we're consumers and we want a deal, we want a bargain, we want service, we want to know what we're spending our money on. The question relates realistically around the farmers and the bog-off. Bog-offs are impulse purchases which we are drawn to. Do we need that merchandise? Do we need those produce? We probably don't. But the thing is that the supermarkets have to be responsible and they have to look at where their wastage is coming, where their codes are going out of date, and more importantly, which part of the market they're selling to. Because a single person should never ever buy a bog off, but they should be given that possibility of buying that merchandise at that price that equates to the bog off. But the interesting moral for me when I read this question is about the farmers. And I can't believe that a supermarket, the Big Four, or even any supermarket, can cancel an order at the last minute. You can't put milk back into a cow. You can't replant a vegetable. So they have spent and laboured for long and hard and probably through arduous weather to actually get this to the supermarket, to be told, no, that is morally wrong.
But it does happen. I mean, I've seen this. I mean, one particular supermarket was specified a particular fruit to a certain size. The fruit has to be within a certain size. And when the container lorry came in from Spain, their inspectors are there. They check it if it's beyond their acceptable size, because they think we as consumers don't want fruit that's too big. They say we don't want it. And then the people who are wholesaling, importing it, have to sell, because it goes off, of course.
Absolutely.
Have to sell it to another chain of supermarket. They'll buy it at a reduced price because they'll say we don't want it because our consumers don't want oversized fruit. I mean, it's ridiculous. It does happen.
You can't create a relationship like that. We wouldn't do that with our suppliers or with our business and partners. You just can't do that. I get the fact that to a degree, if it's aesthetically not pleasing, but it's a commodity. It's food. If it's a banana that's straight, it's a banana. You know, I don't see why it should be rejected. And I think, you know, the supplier themselves can't be responsible for growing everything to a specific specification.
Does anyone around the table remember That's Life? They used to start off their whole programme
with weird-looking fruit.
With weird-looking fruit, normally in some sort of the shape of genitalia, because that's what makes it funny. Mel, can anyone really instruct supermarkets what sort of offers they can and can't offer?
I don't think you can, no. I mean, you can't dictate sales strategies, can you, to retailers at a government level? No. I completely agree with Mark about, you know, the farmers and the impact that you know, these rash decisions can have on them, and you know, fully agree with that. However, I think what we've got to look at is that these bog-offs actually do create value for the consumer in many ways, and I think you need to separate the difference between the perishable and the non-perishable goods. So, for example, I am drawn to offers that could be, for example, for washing powder. Yes, that is costly. You know, you're paying, say, £9 for a box of these washing tablets. If I can get another box for free, then great. The same with shampoo and that sort of thing. But I think then on the perishable goods side of things, I mean, if you're savvy about this, you know, you can freeze it or cook it and then freeze it. So, yeah, I think it's down to the consumer at the end of the day. They should have the choice.
Richard, your business is very different. It's vehicles, of course. I mean, do you have set price you have to work to when people come to you? They're looking for a deal, but if you're buying or getting hold of a vehicle through various manufacturers, do they tell you the minimum price you can sell it?
No, we just have our own discounts to give. But I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, Roberto, actually, because on one of our vans we actually have 50% off from the manufacturer. So I could advertise that as a 2-for-1, but that people don't want to. Otherwise, they'd have one.
Well, unless it's you know, you're firm, then you need 2 vans.
Yeah, but that's not our marketing style. It's just competitively priced. And I mean, you look at Lidl and Aldi; they don't do buy one get one free. They just price competitively. So I think you can put pressure on supermarkets. You can't obviously control an independent company and what they do. But what's wrong with putting some pressure on it? It's got completely out of hand. I mean, I'm sick to death of going to buy a packet of sausages for a barbecue and coming home with 3 because I feel like I should, because it's a 3 for 2. So I think they can.
Well, if you're having a barbecue with 1 pack of sausages, you're a skinflint, mate.
Well, don't tell everyone. I'm hoping nobody will find out.
Unless you're making it up with pork chops.
I can't fit the room. Once I've got the alcohol in, there's not much room for much sausages in the boot. But yeah, I think it's good to put some pressure on it. It's got completely out of hand. And I think there's actually a lot of scepticism now about what they advertise when they're doing these buy one get one free. And you find, or the larger one is actually more expensive. Or there's now a bit of scepticism, especially like the Tesco sort of stuff. So I think it's not a bad thing. You might not change it, but what's wrong with trying?
I think the key thing is the value supermarkets are challenging the Big Four.
Yeah,
and we're seeing that, and they're taking market share, and that probably does show that consumers are a little bit more savvy, not only towards the price, but as you said, being able to buy one of something has a benefit. And that's why I mentioned about single parents or single family, single person in a family, should I say, that's buying for themselves. They have no choice. If they want washing powder, it's not worth buying 1 box, you would go for the 2.
So what's interesting, Mel, your business is you and your colleagues. You run it the way you see fit, and Richard, yours is as well. Mark, your business is managing a very busy shopping centre. Lots of shops, lots of people who work there, lots of people coming in and out. Do you have any say in what the shops... I mean, if one of the shops started retailing something that was inappropriate, would you have any say over that?
Strictly no. We can only bring that to their attention. And we do from time to time. There are some promotions that are inappropriate. There are some merchandise times that are inappropriate. I'll give you one example. Many ladies probably disagree with this, but somebody objected to the annual fireman's calendar because it was a bit raunchy.
I wouldn't object to it.
And that's the reaction that most... But you have to take into account that somebody somewhere
somebody
online,
complained about the raunchy fireman's calendar.
Yeah.
Was it a bloke?
Yes.
Not a lot you can say about that, really. I mean, you know.
But that's how, you know. When,
I mean,
when
I've seen they can be a bit raunchy. You know.
But you know, they're in the public domain. People can walk into it, and if they don't like it,
they're still available because I'm seeing Mel's faces light up like a beacon.
I think you'll have to wait for next year's edition.
I don't think the calendar really matters, really.
Just attracting me to the shopping centre
I
now.
just think the pictures, really.
You're 3 months in, it could be well thumbed 3 pages, so you never know if you can get one second hand.
Richard, you're studying your networking group in Stevenage. What's happening there?
Well, we get most of our business from something called BNI, Business Networking International, and I'm in a group in St Albans, and we're looking to start one up in Stevenage. So really, I'm appealing to any companies or sole traders out there that are looking for growth in business. It's a word-of-mouth referral marketing operation. Basically, it's all based on trust and credibility. So literally just trying to get it off the ground now. We're just looking for businesses in the area. We can only have one of each profession. So once the seat's gone, the seat's gone. So anybody in the Stevenage area is looking to grow the business locally by word of mouth.
Hertfordshire is very good at this. Stevenage, Watford, Hitchin, very good at networking, and there are lots of events organised for things going on. Bedfordshire, not so much, for some reason.
Well, there are operations in Bedfordshire. They're all over the country. There's 600 of these chapters all around the country anyway. There's about £300 million worth of business goes through these sort of organisations every year. I mean, we've only been in 2 years, we will probably turn over £1 million just from that networking group this year. So there's huge opportunities. And really, it's just a matter of time as we go into different areas, opening different chapters. But you can't do it all overnight. You've got to get the right people to do it properly. Otherwise, it just doesn't work because it is a trust and professional organisation. You can't just get anybody. They've got to be the right people with the right connections and the right attitude towards it, to be honest.
Mark, we know the Mal in Luton is very, very busy. Mel, we've been doing our big tour. This week we're in Berkhamsted. Last week it was Potton and Sheffield, and the week before we're in Letchworth. Why isn't Letchworth as exciting as Hitchin? Hitchin just has a certain buzz about it. And it's got the same coffee shops almost, I think. But there's something about Hitchin.
It hasn't got a Starbucks.
It hasn't got a Starbucks, yes, she's obsessed. But there is something, Hitchin's just got a bit of a vibe about it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and Letchworth is a lovely town, and it has got some very nice shops, but I have noticed that there is a high turnover of retailers within the town. I'm not quite sure what it is, to be quite honest. I mean, I think you have got some more individual shops, I think, in Hitchin. That's the only thing that I could say. But, yeah, there's something I can't quite put my finger on it.
It is strange how some locations, some shopping centres, some towns. I mean, the Mall is very busy. Other malls I can think of around. I mean, the Howard Centre in Wellington. I'm not sure it's part of your group. That doesn't seem to have so much vibrancy. I mean, how do you draw people in? How do you make something happen like that?
Well, I think the one thing is you have to acknowledge that the Mall in Luton is the dominant part of the town centre. And you've got 1 million square feet there, and it's taken out what was previously the town centre 40 years ago. Love it or hate it. So the retail offer is within that, and it's undercover. So we're comparable to Watford Harlequins into, as it is now, and MK in respects of footfall.
All very busy.
All very busy. 22 million people we have a year go through the doors. And that's still staggering. That is akin to Lakeside, Blue Water. And that's akin to the New Trinity Centre in Leeds, 22 million. Now, we still, and I've said this before, Roberta, we lose out around about the Christmas time because that's when those shopping centres, their footfall increased probably by another million and a half. But that's what people don't really understand, that you walk through the Mall from day to day and it is busy from 9 o'clock. It's not a deserted high street in respects of what you will see anywhere around the 3 counties. You can't even go to Watford and it's that busy. You don't even go to Milton Keynes, it's that busy at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's phenomenal. And that's because It attracts people. It's about being a connective path all the way through the town centre. So some of those are transient customers, definitely, but they're there to observe and do window shopping.
Well, if I wanted to go to the train station tonight, I'd have to pass through the shopping centre.
And that adds to the ambience of the shopping centre itself. We get more and more people that use it as a conduit.
And when Starbucks coming? Mel wants to come. Hopefully it'll be next to the fireman's calendar.
In your tattoo shop.
And my tattoo shop. You would not want a tattoo from me.
I have a picture here. You're having a coffee, you bought the calendar, Roberto's emulating one of the guys in a tattoo.
I can tell you that's not going to happen.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, I haven't had much time to mention Hitchin in this evening's broadcast, mainly because it's been so busy elsewhere, but those temporary lights are still on Parkway, the A602, and yes, they're still causing queues at the moment. I can see you're queuing back along the 602, back past the roundabout for Stevenage Road towards the A1M at Junction 8, so that's causing some delays of around 10 to 15 minutes. The 505 coming up from Luton towards Hitchin as well. Once you get to Moormead Hill, there's long queues there into the centre of town, once again caused by those temporary lights on Parkway. Now, elsewhere at Old Stratford, the A5 still closed both ways. A collision there, 2 cars involved, closing the A5 between the A422 at Old Stratford and the High Street at Pottersbury. Still very busy on the M25. That's slow going on the clockwise side from just after Pottersborough at Junction 24 along to the A10 at Cheshunt at Junction 25, and slow going on the M11 as well. If you're coming off the M25 at Junction 27, delays there heading north up towards Harlow at Junction 7. Adam Moore, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. More from Adam in the next 15 minutes.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
6:30 with the latest news headlines. Here's Richard Williams.
The Conservative MP for Hemel Hempstead, Mike Penning, says he's appalled residents who moved out because of the sinkhole are still having to pay rent. The hole appeared in Oakridge Gardens in February, but many are still in temporary accommodation. The contractor for the roadworks that have been ongoing in Hemel Hempstead since June is apologising for the disruption and inconvenience it's caused. The road is due to open next Wednesday and the remaining work to finish in May. The athlete Oscar Pistorius was overcome with emotion as he told his murder trial in Pretoria of the moment when he realised he'd shot dead his girlfriend at his home in February last year. The court had to be adjourned during his second day of evidence as he collapsed in tears, describing how he'd mistaken Reva Steenkamp for an intruder. In football tonight, Watford host Leeds tonight in the Championship, while Luton are at home to the conference side Tamworth. Your weather, dry and mostly clear tonight with the chance of mist and a low of 2 degrees Celsius. And don't forget, you can get all the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/Three Counties.
Thanks, Richard.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
My panel tonight, Mark Broadhead, Richard Bunn and Mel Blackmore. Panel, do you want to see how your tax pound is spent? Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs will send out personal tax statements to around 24 million people in October that will show how their taxes were spent. And I think the idea is that if you actually see where the money is being spent, some people will be less likely to find ways of avoiding or paying less tax. Mel, do you want to see exactly how your tax money is being spent?
Yes, I think it's a good idea. I think the more transparent that the government can be about where our taxes are going, I think it's got to be a good thing. Yes, we work hard, and so a lot of us begrudge paying these taxes. So I think it would be, I guess, it would be beneficial for anybody that's paying taxes to understand exactly where they're going.
Richard? You get a letter from HMRC, whatever they're called this week, and you say, look, I'll tell you, Richard, this is how we spent your money.
I love it. I mean, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, what a load of rubbish. It's just going to be, we spend $5 billion on emptying your bins. But actually, it sends you a statement saying you earn 30, you pay 5, £1,209 of it goes on the welfare state, and, 7% of it goes on interest on government debt. So actually, it focuses people's minds. So when they're moaning about austerity measures or whatever, they can see exactly what's going on. So I think it's a brilliantly illuminating way of putting it for somebody to understand.
Because my son asked me last week, well, why do you pay tax? I said, well, because you go to school and you've been to hospital and all that's how it's paid for. It kind of, I thought, okay, and then you get it. Mark?
I'm a bit more a cynic. Whoopee-doo, wowee. I take what has been said, and I think it's very valid points. But I have to say that wherever a penny of tax money goes, everybody will have a different opinion as to where it goes. So whether it's spent on the NHS, on education, we'll all have different priorities. And to me, it won't make any difference because they'll spend it wherever they want to spend it. The policies will be wherever they want to be. And until here is a slightly contentious side of it, until we actually get off our backsides and vote properly as a nation to actually say this government has the power to do what it wants, I think we're all setting ourselves up for a fall.
Expand on that point. What do you mean?
Well, what do we have? About 22% of the population that vote, and they're getting on 51% of that. I think it should be mandatory. Everybody should vote, and that way you could spoil your ballot paper by all means.
Well, some mainstream parties are aiming to get next year the election 34%. 34% of the vote could get them in.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's
34% of probably 24% of the nation. That's 25% of the nation will vote, and 34% of them will get them in. It's nothing. So I think until there's accountability for governments, then that kind of initiative will pay dividends then.
I'm still thinking about the 22 million people that walk through your shopping centre. Blimey, that's a lot. 26 minutes to 7 this evening. Wholesale energy prices have gone down. Will consumers see any of that saving? Wholesale gas prices have slumped to their lowest level since October 2011 after a mild winter across Europe. Of course, the situation between Ukraine and Russia could heat up the market cost a little bit. But as it stands, the unit price for delivery for energy is now down to 48p a unit, down 43% on a year ago. Will any of that benefit be seen by consumers, Richard?
I'm no expert on energy, but I did speak to somebody who works for Utility Warehouse who gave me their view, which was there's a lot of investment required in infrastructure in energy stations, which is mandated by the government, and they're not paying for it all. So it's not the total picture. There is a lot of other money that needs to be spent. So, yeah, it looks like there could be a little tweak there, but I think maybe the market will change a bit and we'll end up with people with contracts where they're not tied in, and that's the way to force the guys to do something about the pricing. But I think there's more to it than just the overall transaction price for gas or electric.
Right. Mel?
Yes, I think it's not just benefits to the end consumer, but also to businesses as well. I mean, if you look at your energy bill, if it was, say, for example, £1 million last year, then if you get knocking off 43% of that, then that's a significant saving for businesses. Yes, one of the standards that's grown in popularity is ISO 50001, the energy management standard for organisations that really do need to look at reducing their energy costs. And so obviously I think anything that helps organisations to increase their profit margins, especially as we're coming out of recession, I think it's got to be positive.
Mark?
Domestic uses are probably over the barrel, and they will always be susceptible to these price fluctuations. And it is about the world economy, and it is a commodity that's going to be bought and sold. I think the interesting thing is the commercial aspects, businesses. Not only are we faced with fluctuating prices, but we're faced with a carbon tax. I have to pay £16 per carbon tax tonne of my total energy. So I'm tasked with reducing my energy because the retailers actually pay for it. And over the last 5 years, I've reduced my energy consumption by 30-odd%.
How?
Turning things off, basically. Looking at protocols. I mean, got far too much lighting on in here for me. Could lose half of those.
No, our sockets are next door at the hotel. They're paying the bill.
Oh, that's all right.
We've really hotwired it.
But interestingly enough, that's a 34% reduction. But we tie ourselves into 5-year, 3-year, 2-year deals, whatever we can get. But we've only managed to reduce our overall spend by 20%. So I'm turning lights off. I'm turning lights off, but still paying the same amount.
And do you have to, because if you notice when you go shopping, in most of the big retailers, it is very hot in there. It doesn't need to be, because you will drive in with your coat And when you come, I don't know if you had this, had a look at this. You go into a shopping centre, you've driven in with your coat in your car, you've parked in, you walked in, and halfway through, you've got to take your coat off and carry it around with you because some of the shops are so hot. You don't need it to be hot.
Well, and the ambience of people and friction and everything else, the hot air that happens there. But I tell you what, I'll challenge. Not everybody will see this, but from probably 9 o'clock tonight, there'll be probably half a dozen lights on for security reasons throughout the mall, but there'll be most of the facial lights on from every retailer, and we cannot get them to turn them off. It's their money. It's not my money. It's their money. We can't get them to turn it off. They're indoors. Nobody sees it. But I tell you now, you will find probably 80%
Do you get that, Richard? I mean, why don't they turn their lights off? It saves them money.
Well, I don't. But is that not? It's also counterintuitive about how expensive electricity and gas is. If the businesses are suffering, if it was that difficult, they'd be turning them off themselves. They'd have to. But maybe they think somebody's seeing their goods in the window. Do they? Is that why?
Yes, they do. If it's out on a high street, you get that. I do get that because it lights up the high street and people can see.
There are security issues as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but inside a shopping centre, I can guarantee there'll be lights on when we don't need them. It actually allows my evening team to go around doing their normal functions without me putting lights on.
Oh, fascinating. We're talking about the HMRC letter detailing where your tax money is going. Martin Webb says, will the revenue tax letters explain why some big companies are avoiding paying tax, UK tax? I doubt it, he says. You know, this coffee programme was on last night. It's quite interesting because it looked at all these big coffee shops and it brought up the issue of Starbucks who weren't paying any UK... In fact, I was paying more corporation tax than they were, which is astonishing, right? So... and what they found was they did the analysis, and when that story broke, for a couple of weeks, cost of sales went up, and Starbucks sales went down. And when Starbucks announced they're going to pay tax, their sales rose again. And also, for example, the UK, all these big UK coffee chains pay 12% over the odds for their coffee beans. They don't have to, but they want to. But the point is, they want to because they know the British consumer will turn on them if they're not paying a fair price for their product. Just stack it. There's sort of consumer power here, Mel.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's all about the the press, isn't it, and the media and the social media that goes around that.
Powerful tool. I'm surprised that they turn the lights off.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a difference between business to consumer and business to business. So businesses are forcing other businesses down their supply chain to go green, to reduce costs, to reduce their carbon footprint. We're seeing that more and more within across all sorts of different organisations. But I think it's almost like a completely different rule if you're selling a product to an end consumer.
Richard, what are your staff? How many staff have you got?
5.
What are they like? Because at the moment they're all tweeting like dervishes. They're not doing any work.
Really?
Yeah. Shouldn't they be working? I know it's 20 to 7, but surely you
it's a nightmare this week.
Crack the whip a bit harder.
They're all female, part-time with children, and so when it's half-term, they're all off skiving and looking after the kids. I had a nightmare yesterday.
Can't they bring their kids in?
Well, they have done occasionally. I mean, Karen, who does our marketing, she brought. She's just got a little girl, but she's only a few months old. But it was just getting too disruptive for her. We were okay with it. At one point, we had a dog in there and a baby in there, so we are pretty flexible. I don't mind at all. No, I mean you get a lot of loyalty from being flexible, especially at times like this, half term. You can't get anyone to look after the kids, so they're off.
I was told off yesterday for calling it half term. Whatever the holiday break is, the Easter break, it is very long this year. And I know that I've had someone else's kids come. Yes, I had loads of kids around my house today. My kids have gone to someone else. The parents were all trying to sort of help each because you got to work. I mean, what do you do? You can't stop working for 3 weeks. It's a break.
Our children are off for nearly 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a long break.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they're on football camps, hockey camps, and all
you
sorts
just want to get rid
of
of them, don't you? Have we reached an electronic plateau? Samsung Electronics, the world's biggest maker of TVs and mobile phones, has warned that it's likely to post lower profits for the second quarter in a row, adding to trader jitters over global tech stocks. I mean, have we now there's a story today that more than 1 in 4 British consumers now owns a tablet computer. Have we got to the point where we've got as many smartphones and tablets and electronic gadgets as we need, and we're not going to spend any money anymore unless there's a new revamped version, Mel, because we don't need any more.
We always need these gadgets, don't we? That's the problem nowadays. But I think, initially, when the tablets were very popular, then everybody was looking to rush out and buy the latest iPad. Then it was the iPad 2. And then there were lots of other...
Copycat.
Copycats, yeah. And, you've got Samsung and who've been really successful in this market now. So there's a much wider choice and availability of these products. So I don't think it's the fact that we're not buying as much. I think there's just greater variety. So some of the bigger players are potentially losing out a piece of the pie, basically. Their market share is reducing.
Richard, could I ask you about that? In commercial vehicles, does it work like that? Because in cars, when a new model comes out, I mean, the Japanese manufacturers are very good at this. They change their models every year, hoping people will want to buy the new. If the new Transit came out recently, do people just say, "Oh, well, I've got to get a new Transit"?
Yeah, it's our most popular inquiry, new Transit Custom. Yeah, it's probably 50% of inquiries. But the Transit's been around for so long; it's such a major change from what one used to be like. Everybody's all excited by it.
Yeah, what would a bank robbery be like without a Transit?
Exactly.
You have to, chased by the Swede.
Exactly. But I'm not sure with these smartphones. I think it's the rate of growth that's changed. It's not necessarily that. But obviously, it keeps changing. My son dropped my wife's phone in the sink the other day, so she's going to need a new iPhone. So there's still a market there. It's just there was such huge growth into tablets, and we even had to change our website because 60% of builders, electricians view our website on a tablet or a smartphone, not on a PC or a laptop. So you have to get it to fit onto the right media. So yeah, it's not going to go away. More and more people view what they view on a tablet or a iPhone.
What's the most popular van? I mean, the Transit number one. Is it the Mercedes Sprinter van?
No, Mercedes Sprinters are very expensive unless you're doing very, very high mileage. I won't get too boring on it. Vauxhall Vivaro is one of the most popular vans because it's got back-to-pimp-up vans. It's got everything. Bluetooth, alloys, all sorts of bits on it for less money than the Ford Transit, to be honest.
Before I was a radio presenter, I had a small company, and we purchased a Sprinter 307D, or long wheelbase, £24,000 we spent, it brand spanking new. On the third day, one of our drivers hit a bollard, and the bollard won. Forget that episode, Harry. Mark, have we reached a plateau when it comes to consumer electronics?
Almost, I think. I think we're probably into that recycle, reuse type of latest brand. I think there are very few people without a smartphone. There are very few people that still haven't got a tablet. Richard's quite right about the platforms, making sure that every business can operate off all of them. And looking at this article earlier today, it's fair to say that Samsung, they're still doing 4.8 billion. They're 4% down in profit. Still not a bad place to be, but they are being attacked by the lower manufacturing-based companies.
But it's the volatility in the market. I mean, 5 years ago, iPhone, was it 5 years ago? iPhone hadn't come out, and it was BlackBerry or Sony. Then, the iPhone came out, and Samsung quickly developed it. And in that market, the speed of pace of change is so dramatic that 1 minute you're a major corporation, next minute you're out of the game.
Well, haven't we seen that with VHS, Betamax, Blu-ray? It's nothing new. Technology moves on. Showing my age there, aren't I?
But it's the margins that have gone with that. They've got the Chinese like Lenovo making phones that are cheaper, and Samsung just can't make the same margins they were before, even if they're selling the same volume.
Yeah, true.
You got an iPhone?
Yep.
Mel, you've got an iPhone?
No.
No?
Nokia Lumia.
Samsung.
Right. I can't tell the audience because I'll tell you what an iPhone costs to make during this. You'll be shocked.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
M25, still a bit of a struggle around junction 23 and 24 clockwise. A1M towards Potters Bar. Slow again from Waltham Abbey towards the M11. M11 itself also slow on the northbound side, all the way from the M25 up towards Harlow at junction 7. At Old Stratford, the A5, that's still shut after two cars had a crash earlier. Shut between the A422 Toaster Road and the High Street at Pottersbury. So that's going to cause problems for you if you're heading between Milton Keynes and Toaster tonight, and still some queues around Hitchin because of those temporary lights on Parkway, the A602. Add more BBC Three Counties Radio.
The next travel bulletin is in 15 minutes.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Every weekday morning from 9.
Good morning, welcome to the JVS show.
Your local stories.
Have you had to rebuild your life after being a victim of crime? Do you think it's inhumane to keep people in prison for life? Do you think that immigration needs to stop?
Your local life.
Why do 70% of this country feel immigration is wrong?
We've actually got an open doors policy.
I am just so angry listening to some of them people.
What the government are doing, they'll start introducing American-type sentencing, like 200 years in prison.
The JVS show.
British people are not xenophobic.
Weekday mornings from 9 on BBC Three Counties Radio. The Business and Finance Hour with Roberto Perrone.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Just thinking about that Sprinter van. 3 days we had it. 3 blooming days. Evening to Karen, who is working very hard on your behalf, Richard.
Really?
And still tweeting. Mel Blackmore is from Blackmore's in Hitchin. Mark Broadhead is the manager of the very busy Mel shopping centre, including 22 million people passing. That's astonishing.
That's correct.
And Richard Bunn is from the White Hot Group. M&S will be back in the news later this week. Pressure's got to grow on the chief executive, Mark Bolland, this week, as the British retailer is expected to post another fall in clothing sales. Analysts expect M&S to report a 1% fall in like-for-like quarterly clothing sales on Thursday. Its 11th quarterly fall, despite having spent millions of pounds to ramp its clothing range and in marketing campaigns. And food sales are expected to have risen by 0.1%, which is scant consolation, really. It does seem that for M&S, the crown is lost. Can they ever turn this round, Mel?
Well, I think they're always going to be a favourite brand, I think, in the UK, certainly. But, I mean, I think they've tried to expand internationally as well, and I don't think that's worked quite as well as they would have liked. I think, potentially, I think they need to be focusing on online sales. I mean, some of their competitors, if you're looking at Zara, John Lewis, their social media strategies and, their other online marketing strategies are being very successful and bringing people in. And I just seem to think that Marks and Spencer still expect people to walk in, into the high street, and quite often people are buying, on their tablets.
Some
on their
do, and some will do and walk into their coffee shop, of course. They got restaurants.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think I've certainly noticed an increase in the number of food retail outlets that they have. I mean, they're popping up everywhere now. You go to any of the major train stations, and they've got these. In Hitchin, for example, we haven't got a clothing retail outlet, but we have got a food outlet, and that's always
Is it that
busy.
it's just not cool? Next, have started the market in clothes and Zara as well. Is it because they're just not cool? And those adverts, their latest adverts with people like Emma Thompson, I'm thinking, would my wife want to go shopping in M&S? The answer is no, not really.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I was reading something the other day about, the fact that they have all these famous women on their advertising campaigns, which I think is great to celebrate their success and recognise them, for their own individual, I guess, strengths and that sort of thing. But the article I was reading was comparing the success of that campaign in selling clothes compared to David Beckham selling underwear, and the difference. Can women actually sell in advertising campaigns, and unfortunately it doesn't look that great for Marks and Spencer's.
Mark, you have an M&S in your shopping centre.
We do indeed. I was just going to say women can sell on, because I do remember the Wonderbra adverts.
I think we all remember those.
Maybe it's just underwear.
God bless Gossard.
But Marks and Spencer's, for anybody wants to recall this, they've been through this more before. They had, probably 15 years ago, under Stuart Rose, they had a difficult time. They started rebranding, they started doing the Perrone, we started reinventing themselves. The challenge Marks and Spencer's got is not so much online, because everybody's got an online platform or challenge in respects of bringing that platform to the customer. It's about the customers themselves, and you're quite right. Are the customers as discerning as they used to be, or have they moved on? As the Zaras, are the JLPs, are they actually going down into the market to the likes of the Primarks? So I think they've stuck in the mid-ground, whereas the rest of retail has either positioned itself as being high value or volume merchandise. And I don't see Marks and Spencer's doing that. They are not a company in trouble. Just because their sales are down for the 11th quarter, they will still turn a handsome profit. And that's the thing that, if they were losing money hand over fist, then we'd start to get worried. We'd be looking at another institution like Woolworths going to the wall. It's never going to happen. They still have a platform, they still have a loyalty.
Because their property portfolio is quite substantial.
Oh, absolutely. And this exploration into foreign markets, they did it 15 years ago and pulled out.
I think they're one of the first, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember them opening stores and trying to get rid of them as quickly as possible. So they have and continue to innovate in respects of retail. You go into their stores, they're clean, they're clinical. That might be part of the problem. But at the same time, you can get there and order anything in Luton that from their range through their internet, through their in-store podiums. And it's a fantastic service.
It is a great customer service, and so with that, people will return, and that's why they've always had loyal customers. And I think at the end of the day, 1% isn't a massive loss, is it?
Trouble is, the speculators love these sort of stories. Richard Bunn, can M&S, ever turn it around?
Well, they have, as you said, they've tried so many times before. I'm not sure they know who their customers are, without wishing to talk about my mum's knickers on air, but I think she would buy knickers from there. But, she wouldn't... They sell women's coats for 350 quid. If you're going to buy a 350 quid coat, it would not be from Marks & Spencer's. I don't think there's better places to go, so I'm not sure they're positioning themselves quite where they want to be on the clothes. And they have got issues. I know they've got a big property portfolio, but if they go online, they've got a big property portfolio of locations that it's difficult to offload. So they've still got those overheads as well, long leases, etc. So they're not that well set to go online either. Substitutional.
Because years ago, I think was it Philip Green tried to buy out M&S, but it was the property portfolio because they own a lot of very prominent landmark properties worth an awful lot of money. There's a programme tomorrow night on BBC Two about estate agents flying the wall, looking at how estate agents really work. And I did ask, do you know any nice estate agents, Mel?
I know some very nice and pleasant estate agents. Whether they're ethical and professional is another matter. We moved house recently, actually, in December, and I was actually a bit perplexed as to what value we actually got from the percentage that you actually pay them. Because, for example, we didn't have any of the estate agents that came round on any of the viewings. Yeah. So what are you paying for? An advertisement on Rightmove, maybe? Yeah. Actually, we did a part exchange, so it wasn't we weren't directly paying that fee. But if that fee was coming out of our own pocket, then I'd be questioning them and saying, well, what are you actually doing to sell our property?
See, I've had both. I've had one property I purchased years ago. The estate agents, I did not call him Mr. Egghead. He was useless. He was absolutely thorough. I did it all myself. The one with the current house we live, it was a lady estate agent. She was brilliant because there were lots of problems from the buyers and the other buyers, and she just kept it all together. She was outstanding. We wouldn't be living where we are today had it not been. I didn't mind paying her percentage at all. I minded paying the tax.
Stamp duty.
Stamp duty. That I did bother. Mark, do you know any estate agents? You haven't got any estate agents in the shopping centre?
No, we do have a small business in there on one of our RMU retail merchandising units that's traditionally to let properties. So it's more of a brokerage than estate agent from that point of view. But, do I know any estate agents? I think estate agents have to be professional. Are they professional? I agree. What do they actually get paid for? I think they are there to hopefully de-stress our processes, which is the most stressful thing, buying and selling a house. Do they do it? Do they get away with it? Because, again, having moved down here 3 years ago, I would say, what did we actually pay for? Because it's a brochure to sell the house, a few introductions, people are coming round, we show them round, we give them the spiel. It's probably the biggest con. If I had the guts, I'd probably try and do it myself. But it's just whether it go right or wrong.
We spoke to a nice estate agent from Berkhamsted earlier on. He was very nice. And Deb says, I know a nice estate agent. His name is Mark, from a local estate. I'll tell you what, I think we're going to try and get him in one night. I did mention that the top 5 of most mistrusted professions or people, your top 5, clearly at the top you've got estate agents. In second place, MPs. Third place, journalists, tabloid, obviously. In fourth place, I was going to mention the pointy-horned one, but I think we'll take him out and put bankers in there, and in fifth place, Timmy Mallet. Richard, do you know any nice estate agents?
I had to get some advice from them. They actually a guy called Nick Parker from Brian Finn, Hemel Hempstead, because I had some issues with a rental property, and I was staggered because he was saying to me it's totally unregulated. I didn't realise, and he's part of this as a property ombudsman, so I've got an issue with an estate agent who's not part of the property ombudsman, so they can't take up the cudgels on your behalf. So yeah, you can actually set up in your bedroom and start flogging houses if you want to. So I was staggered that, car industry gets a bad reputation, but there's all sorts of licences you have to operate. Nothing at all in the estate agency industry.
Running rapidly out of time, do you have a favourite number? There's a story today, and this study is based entirely on the work of a doctor from Brazil, Dr. Alex Belos, and he asked 30,000 people for their favourite number, and he's put together a top 10 of the world's favourite number. Do you have a favourite number, Mel?
25.
It's not on the list. Richard, do you have a favourite number?
3, my rugby position.
That's on there. Mark, do you have a favourite number, apart from 22 million?
1889.
Why that one?
That was the year Sheffield United were founded.
It's a very good number. You remember
That's on your list, Roberto.
the top 10, this is possibly the most ephemeral list. These are the top 10 of the world's favourite numbers. In 10th place, number 11. In 9th place, number 2. 8th place, number 6. In 7th place, number 9. In 6th place, number 13. In 5th place, number 5. 4th place, number 4. In 3rd place, number 8. In 2nd place, number 3. And the world's favourite number is number 7. They get paid to do this.
I could have told you that.
Mel, where can people find out more about you?
Go onto our website. It's www.blackmoresuk.com.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And Mark, they can just come to the shopping centre, and 22 million people. I can't believe that number.
I know them all by name.
That'd be lovely. Richard, where can people find out you about White Hot Group and
WhiteHotVans.com, remember that, and just go on your smartphone.
And your networking event in Stevenage?
Stevenage, and just go on WhiteHotVans.com and get in touch with us that way.
And you have some very lovely staff, you know that?
They're gorgeous as well.
He's so bad. Panel, thank you, you've been lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Problems again on the M25 clockwise, junction 26 to 27, Waltham Abbey round to the M11. There's been an accident through that section, absolutely solid at the moment on the cameras through the tunnels there. Queuing back to the A10 at Cheshunt, junction 25's already around 30 minutes of delays there. So clockwise M25, partly blocked accident, junction 26 to junction 27 for the M11. In Old Stratford, the A5 northbound is closed now. It was shut both ways after a collision earlier, but it's shut now northbound between the A422, the Toaster Road exit, and the exit for Pottersbury at the High Street. That's going to affect you if you're travelling out and up towards Toaster this evening. To the A5 shut northbound at Old Stratford. Adam Moore, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you for your company. Thank you for a fantastic panel. Three Counties Sport up next. Watford and Luton are our two featured games. Good luck to both our teams, and very good luck to lovely Luton.
Local and vocal across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.